Bomba-data, 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 bomba-data.
Radio voice activated.
Hey, what's happening,
Hey,
everybody?
everybody.
Welcome back to Happy Trails.
Happy trails, everybody.
On
And
this
seriously, happy trails. Yeah. Hey, tell me about the beauty in Robbins, Iowa. Talk to me. Like, what's it like today?
It's a December morning.
Really?
December.
Mm.
Yep. Happy December, everybody. How
So,
about
if you put that into the analyzer, what that means is it's freaking cold in
that?
Iowa.
It's gonna be nice today. It's supposed to be above freezing.
Yes.
So we were out in South Carolina and had some pretty nice weather out there.
We
Last
did.
Thanksgiving, it was great hanging out with the Bynums. And we fly home, and as we're flying in, they're like, there's a little snow on the ground, shouldn't bother us too much. And we land late at night and go to bed, and we get up, and we had about 4 inches of snow. Like, what the hell? And it was like, and then the high was 20 for the next 3-4 days. So
and then we were nonstop busy all week. Once everybody left, there wasn't a slowdown. It was hammer down. And Ann and I just left Greenville yesterday morning early. And I am crazy, but I am actually doing the podcast from somewhere other than home. I know that's weird.
Wow.
But I am in Cancun, Mexico. I believe in Playa del Carmen, I think. I don't know.
Yeah.
I just say, get me to the airport and then take me to the resort. That's all that matters. So it's really warm and sunny here, Blaine. And I don't want to rub that in, but it's gorgeous. And I'm going to be by the pool sipping cocktails here in about, I figure we'll take us an hour.
Well, probably less than that.
Maybe we'll.
I don't want to hold you up. We gotta, we gotta get information to these people out here so they can go build better lives.
That's right. So it's important. This is we sacrifice and we do this podcast. We try to deliver it on time because we want to make sure that we're providing good information for our friends and acquaintances, and we're growing the group and some cool stuff is happening for everybody. So I think we mentioned last time, Blaine, we were going to start getting into a little bit more detail. We've kind of teased everybody with information. We've kind of taken you through the beginning steps and terms and all the different stuff. And we mentioned last time that we're really going to start showing you some numbers using what's called an analyzer. And today, Blaine's going to break that thing out. Blaine, you want to tell him a little bit about that?
Yeah. No, it's a big old Excel spreadsheet that was put together for us. Maybe not specifically, but kind of being that we are.
I like to think students. It was.
Yeah, they did it just for us too. Yeah. But as we talk about the Sumrock Group, and that's one of the benefits that we have is this spreadsheet that you plug some numbers in. We'll show it to you, and it'll give you an idea of what the property can do. And then if you tweak numbers here and there, you can see what the returns can be and And anybody can make one of these if you have the knowledge of Excel. I mean, this thing's pretty complicated. There's multiple pages, and you'll see it. We're going to go through the first page today. Basically, there's multiple pages. It's going to take us probably a couple podcasts. Otherwise we'd be on here for 2 hours. Yeah. And we know Matt's got to get down to the pool side.
Yeah. The bartender told me yesterday, he says, I'll be looking for you early. So I gotta be there for him. Just like I got to be here for you. I got to be there for him at some point.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's, and when I've been down in Mexico before, I notice everybody down there loves the Hawkeyes.
Yes. So, and by the way,
looking at your hat,
big game,
Big Ten
championship.
Big Ten championship.
I mean, how does Hawkeyes Big Ten championship, just amazing season, offensive records left and right.
There are records being competing set this year. There's no doubt.
Competing for the championship against Michigan.
That just shows you, just never give up. Just keep going, man. Things may not look so rosy on the outside, but heck, you never know. Now they're in a position, and that may happen to you in life too. That may happen in the real estate world where you get some deals going or coming your way, and you're like, I can't find one. And a lot of people had trouble last year or so because the market was so crazy. Maybe they're coming in, all of a sudden, bam, you hit one. And
anything can happen.
Most people I talk to that do get into multifamily deals and find them, they're like, yeah, we looked at 284, and and we finally found one that we liked. And so, people aren't like getting 2 or 3 of these coming across their desk and, hey, let's go, let's buy this. They're looking, they got specifics from the stuff we've taught you and stuff we've learned that they're looking for. And so keep going, guys. Motivation.
And like Blaine said, some of them get 200 deals put across their desk before they even pick one. So don't feel rushed on this. We're very privileged to be a part of the Sumrock mentor group, and we're learning from Brad and his entire team. And being part of that group is the analyzer that we have afforded to us. That's part of your membership. So to be able to learn using this, I'm going to call it technology, because I wouldn't know how to do it otherwise. I can't add a box in Excel spreadsheet. So that's the fact that this is already done. It's really nice, but
it is pretty amazing. It
is cool. So and the way that people use this, and I'll have Blaine throw some different numbers in there so you'll see the numbers change, but you can analyze this. So you always want to look at your numbers somewhat conservatively, because you go into this thinking, hey, you see the numbers that they presented to you, and you're like, wow, I mean, I can make 18%. That's 2 times my money. Hell, I'm going to jump all over that. And but then you start throwing numbers in there, and what ifs? It's the what ifs. What happens if the Fed continues to lower the rates like they did this entire last year, or raise the rates? What happens then? What happens to the numbers as they come in from that? What happens if you can't raise the rents as fast as you want to do it? What happens if vacancies continue to be longer, which is what we experienced this year with VDO? We're now coming out of that hole, but it's a whole learning process in the entire scope of all of it. So we'll show you some of that as we move through it. But before that, Blaine, the first easy way that we taught everybody, because we taught numbers and terms, is the down and dirty napkin test, right?
Yep.
So the down and dirty napkin test, we showed you this earlier, so we're going to do it again. So let's just say that you've got a deal that comes across your desk, or somebody that says, hey, I really want to get you involved in this multifamily thing. Let me show it. This is what the projections are. So you've got to be able to run things in your mind of whether it makes sense or not. So go through the napkin test. We're going to do the napkin test first. So this is the first step, because you're not going to put everything in the analyzer if it doesn't make sense on the napkin, right?
That would be a waste of time.
If it passes a napkin test, then hell, let's plug and play and see what it looks like. So
rock on. Basically, on the napkin test, if you're given a property, I have one property that we're kind of use here that I got in my email last week, and so we're going to kind of roughly use this as our outline. But it's 137 units, and so if you're doing the napkin test, you're like, hey, I got 137 units. What is the average rent that I'm getting? $1,000 per unit per month. Okay. So you take 137 times 1,000 and you multiply that by 12, right? 137. I think I can probably do the 1,000. And then you multiply by 12, you get 1.644 million. Okay. And that's your yearly income. All right. And that's as is, and you can get those numbers off of the T12 or the rent roll, or there's all sorts of different places you can get that number or the OM. Remember the memorandum that typically the sellers send out to you will have a bunch of numbers on it and projections and stuff like that. So they'll have that for you. And so you can look off the OM, go, okay, $1.644 million. How much are my expenses? They are somewhere between 50 and 60% usually. And it depends on where you are, and you got to know your market. If you're in Arizona, expenses are typically less because insurance is way, way lower because they don't have hurricanes. The taxes are extremely low in Phoenix and Tucson. So, down there, you're probably looking at maybe 40% expenses. Again, you got to know your market, which we talk about a lot, but typically across the world, there's it's 50 to 60%. We'll use 55 in this case. So 55%.
Do we use that because it's halfway between 50 and 60?
No, it's 5 more than 50.
Oh,
It's
okay.
not, I
So
mean,
that's
it's not because it's halfway, it's just because it's 5 more.
okay. So we
Yeah,
just do that.
5 more
We
percent.
5 more. Okay, I like that. I like that. Okay, let's
And
just throw
so,
that out there.
oh geez, man. Anyway, so we get our 1.64 million. And then if our expenses are 55%, that means our income will be 45%. So you multiply 1.6 times 0.45, and that gives you $738,000. And that's a rough estimate on your NOI would be. All right, net operating
NOI,
income.
net operating
income. Yep, that's the income minus the expenses. That does not include your mortgage. Does not include your mortgage payment. So you get that number, and then you take that and you divide it by your cap rate. And again, cap rate is area specific. 2 years ago, cap rates in DFW, Dallas Fort Worth, were maybe 4.75 to 5-ish. This one that I'm using as an example is that they talk about a 6 cap. Okay, so
I was gonna say probably 6
cap rate. Again, that's varies for location. In Iowa, you're probably looking at 7. So the higher the cap rate, the lower the value. And so that gives you a value in our example of $12 million. Okay, with 137 units, $1,000 per thing. But like I said, we'll plug this in the annals. And so if you're looking at that and you're going, hey, value is 12 million, and what are they asking for it? And the rough value is, and they're saying if they're asking $18 million for this place, and you do this napkin test, you're like, huh, I got 12, they're asking 18. Bye. See ya. On to the next one. How long did that take us? We're on a podcast. It took me 30-40 seconds to roll those numbers out real quick. But if I get this 12.3 or whatever, and they're asking 13, then it's like, huh, okay. Then you're like, that could work. So now I need to dig a little deeper. Is this something I want to get into? Do I like the area? Do I like, I know people down there that can, or wherever it is, that can scope out the territory, that knows the market, the sub-market, not just, Dallas Fort Worth has 80 million sub-markets, right? So you got to know, this one here is in Arlington by, for example, and you got to know that area specific. So it's like, hey, this is actually sounds like a pretty good deal. Let's go dive a little deeper. This might be something we look at putting an offer in and going from there. So
yep. Hey, this is a good time to also interject that, one of the things that Brad's taught us along the way, Blaine, is that sometimes, everybody seems to be looking for a deal, right? So if you throw this on the napkin test and it says 12 million and you're thinking, well, gosh, I'm only paying 12 million or less because I'm looking for a deal. Well, sometimes the deal is better off served paying the price that might be a little bit higher because the return is going to be better. So we can't always discount the fact that if there is an analyzer that's been put into play and the asking price is, let's say, $1 million more, maybe 2 million more, I wouldn't absolutely throw that off the table. I would just dive into the numbers even a little deeper to see what are the improvements, how much work needs to be put into it, what kind of time frame can we turn the property, that kind of thing, because there may be availability to increase your potential to grow and scale that, making more money faster than you would if you were to get a deal on it. So sometimes Brad says the deal doesn't necessarily have to be a deal. It just, sometimes you're going to pay the asking price or you're going to pay higher for the property because it makes sense. So this is not just looking at this going, okay, it has to be lower than 12 million or we're not looking at it. Yeah. So just keep that in the back of your head as we go through this too.
I would say if you're probably within like 20% of that number, so 12 million, if it's 2.5 million more than that, then you're like, that's kind of in the ballpark. Then you start, as Matt said, you start looking at the specifics of the submarket and stuff like that and what it has to offer. So
I'd be like 14. I might look at it. If it were 15 or higher, I'd be like, I'll bypass this for now. And then maybe if I'm bored someday, I might take a look at it a little deeper, but probably not.
Actually, what he would do is text me and say, hey, dude,
Blaine,
look at this for me. I'd be like, okay.
Blaine loves the numbers. I just like the final. I like the final numbers.
Shoot. So anyway, so we're gonna let's assume that this came out pretty good, and we're gonna go into the property analyzer. I'm gonna do a screen share. I'll try and talk about this for those that are just listening, but we're gonna do a screen share here, and I'm gonna bring up the property analyzer. And I assume Matt can see that.
Yes, I can.
Well, that's awesome. Okay, so here's the general overview of the property analyzer. And you can see, excuse me. There's, if you look down at the bottom, lots of actually boxes here to fill in. You look at the bottom, there's different pages here too. Property data, 5-year deal model, expenses, returns, and comps. All right. And so all those are going to need to be filled in to make this work. And so that's why you don't want to come in here and go, hey, every deal, I'm going to roll through this, every single one, because this takes a while. This takes a little while, not forever, but it takes a bit. So, like I said, we're going to start with kind of the page one. We'll go through some of these numbers, talk about them, and then we'll probably let Matt get to the bar. I'm sure I got all sorts of work to do somewhere around here between this and
the snow and
snow had melted the last couple of days, although they're supposed to get more snow today. So it's so nice when it's snowy. And
it is nice. And you know what? It's always beautiful when it snows. It's just afterwards when the snow is dirty that you're like, right. But when it's snowing, you're like, it's gorgeous.
Yeah, get you in the holiday spirit.
Yes.
Anyway. So again, back to the analyzer. If you look at it, all the blue tiles are things that we can enter. Those are all stuff that you put data in for. And all the red tiles here, you see value, blah, blah, blah. These are all areas that are calculated for you. Okay. So like I said, you can put something like this together. Matt does this every couple of days. He'll do a spreadsheet like this with multiple pages. Yeah. And of course, I'm
really good at that.
All these pages are connected. I don't even know how you freaking do that, but I mean, I
don't know how I do it either, Blaine.
I do, you just do what we're doing and you get it because we're cool. So, we're going to put in the property name. Property name is Happy Trails. Isn't that a great property?
It's amazing.
Yeah.
I can almost hear the song playing in the background by the Atomic Pops.
Wait, maybe. Oh man, you just never hear that song enough, can you?
Just can't get enough.
Just goosebumps.
Yep.
So, property name. We can put the address in. We'll go to 2th Avenue, that kind of stuff. The asking price, actually the asking price for this property, I believe is about 18 million. And so, we'll put that in there. Now, how do you know that? How do you know the asking price? Because most OMs don't say it. That's where you got the connection with the brokers.
With the broker.
You got to talk to the broker. You go, hey, this property interests me, I did some initial figures and I'm kind of thinking maybe I need to dive deeper into this, but this is something that's piqued my interest. What is the whisper price? You could say asking price. I think the cool term is whisper price. Would you say?
When you say whisper, though, you have to whisper price.
What's the whisper price?
Yeah, you have to do it just like that.
And for whatever reason, when you go and buy a house, the price is listed, right? Most multifamily properties don't have a price listed,
right?
And I don't know. I guess that's just the way they do things. And so you kind of got to ask, maybe that just keeps the riffraff out or something. I don't know. So you kind of got to ask. Now there's another way that I kind of look for the, get an idea of what kind of price they're looking at on a value. A lot of times when you tell your broker you're interested in these deals, they'll send you a bunch of information. One includes the OM, which we talked about.
The operating memorandum.
Yep, that's got all the goods in it. And we went over one of those. Maybe we should do another one someday just to kind of repeat that, to refresh everybody's memory, Matt. But
Good idea.
They'll also give you the T12, which is the income and expenses.
That's it.
And that'll show your NOI.
That's a trailing 12-month of data. That's what a T12 is for those that aren't. If you haven't been tuned in and watched us define the terms, T12 is a trailing 12 set of data for the 12 months prior to the data being entered into the analyzer.
Yep. And there's also T3s, which is the trailing 3. Not to get into details there, but if you compare your T3 to your T12, you can get some trends going on. But they'll also sometimes they'll give you a lending sheet. The broker will have a lending sheet on there, and it'll show different loans, different potential loans that you can get. And by kind of back, they'll say, hey, this is the bank says a $12 million loan for this property. The maximum LTV, loan to value, we'll get into that. That's down here a little bit, is 75%. And it's like, well, if it's 75% and $12 million, then probably they're thinking it's going to be a $15 million property. So that's kind of one way of kind of getting into the asking price. So, if you really want to know, though, just ask the broker. All right. And so then we go down here, moving along, that talks about sales price. And so we're going to put in 18 million for that. And just because that's what they're asking. And so that's one of the, obviously we can adjust that, once we get all the numbers entered in and we look at what the returns are, we're like, yeah, what if I paid 17.5 for this? How does that affect everything? And so we can show you again, that'll be in a different cast. We'll get into that. But we're just going to put in the regular the asking price for the sale price at this point in time. Now we got a couple of things going below that on this analyzer. We got financed rehab, and so there's two ways of doing your rehab, and that's your also known as your CapEx money, which is capitalization expense, and that's the money you're going to use to improve the property. And again, a lot of that is that's how you're going to increase the value. So you got to put money in to get money out. And, it depends on what you're doing, your finance rehab.
And we mentioned that, I think we mentioned it last week too, Blaine, is that finance rehab is a requirement by the bank or the lending institution.
A lot of it is, yeah.
On the loan, because and it goes to reason that if for some reason you defaulted on the property, the improvements have to be done first. So that allows these people to then turn around the financial institution and sell the property with something that's already been done to it. So they're not starting over.
And they're not,
and
they get some value out of it.
Yeah, they get a little bit of value. So it makes sense. I get it. I totally get it. Sometimes I don't like it, but I get it.
Yep. And so you can put financed rehab, or if you look down, if we go down to the bottom here, we have unfinanced rehab. So there's two different ways of doing this. And I think some of that probably has to do with how big the loan you want. Obviously, if you finance it, your loan's going to be bigger, and that's going to make your payment bigger, right? So some people, I think recently I've seen, I know VDO financed the rehab, if I recall. Several of the other deals that I'm in did unfinanced rehab. And again, that was to keep the loan and the loan to value down a little bit. So
how would you recover that? How would you recover that money, Blaine? If you didn't take it out in loan, how would you recover that money to handle that?
That's part of the raise. That's part of the raise when you're going through this, and we'll talk. And as we go down these numbers, we'll see that. Yeah. So we're going to put in, because financing is tight. Banks are not loaning, although they're loosening up a little bit. Banks are not loaning as much as they were before. They are. We're gonna raise our rehab money, and so we're gonna put our rehab down here. We'll get to that in a bit. As we'll just kind of continue to move down this chart here. Financing, we got this. It says new financing or loan assumption. This is the property I am looking at. does not have a loan assumption available. It's going to be new financing. So you're going to get a new loan. Sometimes you can just take the loan over from the prior owner if it's a certain type of loan. I think Freddie Mac or Fannie Mae will do that. There's some advantages and disadvantages to that. And yeah, I mean, we'll talk about that later. I think we went through that a little bit earlier too.
I think we're going to see some of that in the following couple of years. You're going to see some pickups on some of those older loans at pretty good rates.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, you're right. Right on. Loan to cost, or actually, this is also LTV, loan to value. Okay. So this is how much of this 18 million is the bank going to loan you? And we put a percentage in there. And oddly enough, I thought this was pretty interesting. The bank statement, the financial statement that they sent with the OM and all the other stuff had this at 75%. And I think that's really high. I do too. I don't see people getting that much I mean, over the last 2 years, it's been 65% has been about as high as you're going to get. And this said 75. And I'm like, wow.
I was thinking it would be 60-40 is probably where it would end up.
Yeah. I think, like I said, I think that's, again, that's a number we can mess around with. So, you buy a property for 18, the right here, loan amount 13.5, down payment of 4,500,000. So we're starting to get numbers plugged in here. And so just because they say they'll do this, maybe you're like, you know what? I don't want that high loan to value, because that makes things a little more risky. It makes your loan payment higher. But again, it's all how do you work the numbers as you go through the whole process. So we're going to leave that 75% because that's what the statement from the the bank said. Interest only. So a lot of these you can go typically 3 years, 2 to 3 years of interest only payments. And you're like, gosh, why would I want to do that? It's because you only pay the interest. You don't have to pay the principal. So, the expenses are lower the first few years while you're rehabbing the property, getting it worked out, getting it to go. Now, if you take a loan over from somebody else, probably not going to have interest only, because they probably used that up if they had it at one point in time. So that's one of the benefits of new financing is typically you can have interest only. We're going to put in 3 years for that. I can't remember what that statement actually said, but we're going to do that. Amortization period typically is 30 years. I've seen some that have gone up to 35. And I'm like, well, that's interesting. Again, the longer the amortization period, the lower your payments are going to be. And again, it takes a different thought process on this because, typically when you're buying a house and you're like, okay, we're going to buy this house, we're going to get a 30-year loan. Yeah, we're going to, but I think my house is on a 15-year loan because I'm like, God, I'm going to save a ton of interest by paying this off. Well, that's because I'm looking at buying this house and owning at one point in time. And the multifamily, it's a whole different thought process. You're not trying to pay down the loan to increase. I mean, that's not what we're doing. You can do that, but that's not our style. That's not what we're trying to accomplish here, is to pay down the loan to increase the value and the how much it's worth to us. So if you can extend the amortization period out, I think that's great. But typically it's 30 years. Interest rate. Now this is the thing that you can have variable rate or fixed. I do not believe this analyzer has the ability to do variable rates. So I think that's one thing they're working on. They're going to upgrade this thing. They've been talking about it for a year, but just add a few more details to it. But that had an interest rate of, I think it was 6.9%. Okay. On that sheet. So we're looking at a 30-year, it's a 3-year interest only, 6.9%. There's now it figures out, hey, this is how much you're going to have to pay on your debt sheet. And at 1.66 million, is your annual debt service. So now again, we're starting to get some numbers going through here. And we're going to do some unfinanced rehab. All right. We're going to, it's 137 units. I think there were 131. There's some that are upgraded, about 6.
What was the total units? How many?
137.
Okay.
So this has 131 units that you can upgrade.
They haven't been
and they estimated $6,000 per unit to upgrade. Again, that varies on where you are and what you're doing, right? You're looking at new appliances, you're looking at new flooring, new cabinetry, sinks, lights, and stuff like that. 6,000 is probably is a decent number. I think if you're doing like total full upgrades, I think some of these are partial upgrades. If you're doing full upgrades, you're probably looking more at $7,000 to $8,000. But we're going to say $6,000 on 131 units, and that comes to $786,000 to do that. So and I always, obviously, you talk about being conservative. Let's hedge up a little bit on this, and we'll go $1 million. Okay, and again, that's just the rehab, right? So we have an $18 million sale price. We got a 75% loan to cost. That means the loan amount's 13.5. And then the interest rate at 6.9%. Annual debt service is 1.66 million. So those are some good numbers to start with. Now,
those are great.
I mean, and so again, just kind of plugging these numbers in from the OM and stuff that you get. Now we go over here, and it talks about, we're going to put in how many, the mix of units we have, how many bedrooms, bathrooms type of thing do we have on this. And so we're going to do 1-1 in the, when it says bed, bath, that's 1 bed, 1 bath. Got that, everybody?
101. Okay.
All right, everybody's got it. There are 14 units that have that. I think, yeah, I should have done this math before. Current monthly rent is $950 for those. Okay, and so you plug in those numbers. There's also, and you can go into as much detail as you want. There are probably about 20 different floor plan mixes, because they talk about, you can add the square foot in too.
Yep.
And that gives you, if you do that, it'll give you the price per square foot at $1.62 per square foot. And so that number is used to compare with your comps. And so again, you can get as detailed as you want with this stuff. And so, because sometimes you'll have one unit that's 588 square feet, and you'll have 2 units that are 600 square feet, and you'll have 7 units that are 620. I mean, they're all over the place. And so sometimes you get into putting 20 freaking numbers in here too. And again, when I first go through a deal and I'm looking at this, I'm consolidating things. I'm like, okay, we got 1 bedroom, 1 bath. There's 14 units. Let's go, let's work on that. We'll just deal with that. There's the next line, 2 bedroom, 1.5. So a bath and a half. And again, there's about, I think, 58 units of that. So put 58 in there. Again, go into what's your average monthly rent, 1,300. Square foot. Again, you can average that out if they're a bunch of different sizes, and these look like most of them are 692. So that's good. Continue down. 2 bedroom, 2 bath. There's only about 8 of those. And again, I hope not boring you guys too much. And
good, dude. Keep going.
1,400. Okay. And so again, the square foot's 990. We're kind of rolling down here. There's 2 bedroom, 2.5 bath units, which is kind of odd. You don't see that very often.
Well, it just gives you one in each bathroom and a little
but
toilet off in the living room.
Yeah, a lot of times
But
you don't see that though. You know,
I wonder
it's
what the
unusual.
square footage on that would be.
Then, these looks like 1,100. So there's a couple of these are 775 square
Wow.
foot, and some are 1,100. So, I mean, those are obviously hugely different floor plans. So there's a bunch of those, and we're gonna kind of average the price on that. 1,600. We'll go 1,000 square feet just to average that out. All right, and then we got some 3-bedroom, 2 baths. We got that. Their average rent looks like it's about 1,800. So, looking at these, we got 137 units. You got your current monthly rent, and then you can, over here on the other side, you can put in your pro forma rent. Okay, pro forma rent basically is taken off the OM, and that's what the broker will give you as well. And so the broker says, hey, we think you can get 1,000 instead of 900 for the 1-bedroom, 1 bath. So you put 1,000 in. Now, is that accurate, Matt? Can you get 1,000?
Sure.
Maybe you can't.
I think you can get whatever you want to get.
Well,
you might be able to get 1,400.
You might
for that, but you never know.
Right. That's why you got to check your comps. Right.
Right. Because if everybody around you is charging 980 and you're charging 1,300, you're going to be hard pressed to find that exact tenant to fill in your spot because they can get it cheaper. So you got to pay attention to the comps and the complexes around you.
So now we have these numbers filled in here, and the current value, it says current rent per month, if you add all these up, is 193,000 a month, right? For our 137 units. And it talks there, $1.65 per square foot. And that's pretty average, I guess. So looking at that, you can compare this 193 again with your the information you're given from the seller and your T12. Are you actually getting that? This is probably the market rent, not the actual rent. Okay. And market rent is the amount of money that if you have 20 units at say 20 units that are 2-bedroom, 2 bath, and you're getting $1,400 for one of them, that's your market rent, even if the other 19 are getting say $1,200 to $1,300. Because the rents vary depending on when people sign the leases and stuff like that. So they always take the highest number, and that's your current market rent. But that doesn't necessarily mean that's what you're getting.
Correct.
Okay. So I always look at the monthly rent. It says 193, and I compare it with what the T12 says or the rent roll says that they're getting. I think the last month they're getting around 170. So there's a little, that's $20,000 off. It's like, okay, why is that so different? And is it vacancies? Is it that the rents are even though the market rent is listed at this amount, is the actual rent a lot lower? Are people not paying? So again, you got to explore that stuff. And and again, the pro forma rents is just what the broker gives you. Okay, and that tells you if you put the pro forma rents in on our little thing, it says you should get 206,000 a month. So that's another 13,000 a month extra.
So this is a really good time though, Blaine, to interject that this right here, when you guys look at the current rent per month and that number, that 193.5, you think, okay, so is this the number that we're really getting? But like Blaine said, you look at the T12 and they're getting 170,000. Why is that? Well, this is where a lot of pro formas and operating memorandums are going to value their properties higher here. They're going to hide in these numbers. This is where we see the mistakes. This is the beginning of when we start diving into it. Oh, okay, wait a minute, because there's 4 apartments that are only paying, instead of paying $950, they're paying $650 and have been for 3 years. So the rent's not going up, but they get a special rate compared to everybody else. So it's not just a comparative across the board. It's per apartment or per door, because there might be deals going on. There might be vacancies going on. There might be a long-term tenant. So this is where you really got to dive into the numbers. And this is, again, where I think BDO made a little bit of a mistake, where the numbers were hidden by, well, I just don't think they represented the numbers accurately. Let's put it that way, the seller. And I think this is where, when we looked at the numbers of vacancies, it was not reflective in the numbers that we saw on the charts. So this is a place that people will try to finagle things. So this is where you really got to dive into those numbers, like the T12s, and comparatively going across the board and analyzing, rather than just looking at, wow, okay, because my instinct tells me that's 13,000 increase per year or per month times 12 is what? That's $156,000 extra a year in rent. Just if I just go by the pro forma, just using these numbers, hell, that's $156,000 I'm making right away without doing anything.
And that would increase, using the cap rate at 6, that would increase the value of the property by $2.6 million.
Yes.
That's a nice increase for 1 year. I mean, over from your $18 million sales price. And again, you're putting in $4.5 million down payment, $1 million rehab. So you're putting in $5.5 million of money, and all of a sudden the value increases 2.6. That's a 50% increase on your down payment. That's pretty nice. Can you get that? Maybe you can. So I look at, and this also shows a rent increase from the current to the pro forma, and it says down here 7%. And you're like, well, can I get that? It kind of all depends on how many units you're planning on rehabbing. And, if you're doing all of them, and this was 131 or something like that we talked about, as you rehab units, you can get more rent. And so that's why the pro formas are higher, because you can get an increase in rent. And so, again, this gives you a good start. So a lot of times when I look at this current month, like we talked about, it says 193, and I look at the T12 or the rent roll, and it says, hey, last month I was getting 171. It's like, well, that's substantially different. So if the analyzer uses this number to project a lot of stuff. And so I'm actually, sometimes I'll move these numbers down to go, you know what? I want this 193 to be accurate. I don't want to, because I'm not basing my numbers off market rent. I'm basing my numbers off current solid rent. So real freaking numbers. And so I may come in here and change these going, okay, let's just say, even though market rent's 1,400, we're going to put 1,350, because that's, maybe more what they're getting. When you look at everything. So, let's go. And then I looked at the number down here. Now we're at 184. Well, and so you can look at the numbers again and change them around a little bit. And if you want to dive deep, you really you can look at the rent roll, and you could always add them up. You can go, hey, I'm going to take these 40 units and you add up every 2-bedroom, 2-bath, and you're ended up at 1,250 instead of the market rent that they listed at 1,400. So, like I said, I'll play with these numbers a little bit to try and get them a little more accurate. And now we're down to 178. It's like, okay, well, maybe we're good there. Cause that's closer to the current amount. And there's on the next page, we'll be able to talk about vacancies. There's a place you can put in a vacancy percentage, economic vacancy, as well as, not just occupancy numbers, and to mess with that a little bit too. But so that's, I mean, that's kind of the first page of this. And I think we've talked long enough. Hopefully it wasn't too boring. This is kind of, this is kind of the numbers geeky thing, which I kind of like. Some people, would be like, oh my God, this is so boring and horrible. I don't ever want to do this. And that's cool, because there's a lot of different people that need to be involved in these deals to make them work. And sometimes there's numbers people, you got to have them. And then there's the relation people. You got to have them, and the people that know, the brokers, the people that understand lending, all that stuff. So I think we're going to, unless you got anything else to add, we're going to stop here for today, and we're going to roll on. We'll go on to the next page next time. Next page deals with annual rent increases and other expenses and that kind of stuff. And so, and again, then as we put all these numbers in, we start to get values, our average 5-year cash flow value, our 5-year total value, that kind of stuff. So
yeah, just stay on that page real quick. So let's just reflect, because there's people that move and think differently like me. But again, so we went through, we've got an asking price, we've got the value, you've got the loan, and down at the bottom, you've got the loan data. You've got 3 years paying only interest, 0 principal. Year 4 starts, you see where the principal kicks in.
Yep.
So you can calculate how much you're paying per month, principal and interest. So you have an idea right there. Blaine's already plugged in the different types of apartment doors that there are: 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, 1.5 bath. We see the value, we see the rents. We can narrow that down given the T12, and we can get very specific if we want to get specific on exactly what it is, not just the projection, the pro forma. Remember, pro forma is like the dream number that they're trying to sell you on. So just never just go for the numbers that's been given to you. You have to be a little bit more savvy than that. You've got to dive into this. And yes, Blaine is geeky when it comes to numbers, but I'm grateful for that, because I get to throw things at him that he gets into, and then he'll say, "Did you see that?" And then I'll pull back to the page and I'll dive in deeper and go, "Oh crap, there it is. I didn't see that." So, and this is where you can really start to dive in. And this is why it's called an analyzer, because we're really going in and analyzing this figure. So the napkin test is the intro, the easy way. Hey, am I interested in this property? And then we start digging into the analyzer, and we get deep into this thinking, is this really worth what they're asking? And am I really interested? Can I turn this? Can I refi when it comes at 3 years, 5 years? Can I sell this property again? How much meat is going to be left on the bone as far as your upfits that you're upfitting these particular units? Are we just doing just the typical kitchen and hardwood floor and bathroom? Are we doing the packages that are bringing technology and thermostat and those into it? Are we bringing solar into it? A lot of that stuff. And that's what we mean by meat on the bone. If we're taking care of part of it, there's still another 2/3 left to be able to do into a unit to bring improvement that somebody else can come in and purchase and gather that steam as well. And we'll talk more about that as we move into it. We've already addressed that in previous podcasts, but when you see it in the analyzer and see the potential for other people to look at this deal 3 years from now, because there's still advantages to other people buying this property from us in 3 to 5 years or whatever it is, unless we want to hang on it. So you'd be surprised some of the things that we have learned with Sumrock and through our mentors that I had no idea. And I know Blaine's the same way. We had no idea that you could buy an apartment complex, make some improvement, sell it in 5 years, and the same people that bought it from you could do the same dang thing that you just did 5 years ago and get the same tax benefit. It's insane. And I love that, because that's what creates wealth for everybody that's joining in on this. So, and that's what we're here for, people. Again, this is why we started this. How do we help you generate and create wealth for you and your families so you can provide and do all the things you want to do and get out of doing what you're currently doing in the rat race of dentistry or whatever it is, because retirement is coming. And I know for me, I'm going to need some retirement money, because I like being in Mexico and podcasting from Mexico. So.
Me too, but I'm not there. But I do like being in Mexico.
Yes,
that's good.
Yeah, well, we'll plan that better for sure. Hey, great job, Blaine. Perfect going through that. That was awesome.
All right, rock on, guys.
Yeah, guys, happy trails to everybody. Thanks for viewing. Again, share, like, send us questions, please. We haven't had any questions over the holidays. I think people went dormant, but get us some questions so we can, I think this should generate some questions. So hopefully next cast, we're going to have some things to bring up and discuss openly besides looking at the analyzer itself. So thank you all.
Right on.
Happy trails and
happy trails.
Cheers.
Enjoy.
Margarita tipping to you. Hola, ¿qué pasa? Cerveza.
Corona. Dos Equis.
Dos Equis. Happy trails.
Happy trails.
care.